because he is aided by demon-like masked creatures, he refers to as his helpers.
Hi, ghouls, gals, and spooky pals. Welcome back to the Monstration Club. I'm Jen, and I'm here with my best friend, Emma. And today we're going to talk about Krampus. What's so interesting to me about Krampus is when you think of Christmas, the holidays, December, we're thinking joy, warmth, light, togetherness. But enter Krampus, the dark and twisted alpine folklore figure.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about how Krampus looks. If you want to be plagued with nightmares, I would suggest looking up Krampus. If you want to live a normal and healthy existence, maybe just like listen to the description instead of looking it up.
Close your eyes, because Emma's probably going to put a picture up
Yeah, just
probably
just
now.
yeah,
So
close your
just
eyes. For the love of all
see no
that's holy,
evil.
just don't look. Don't look. Yeah, so he is considered the anti-Claus, and he is a half demon, half goat, which is already uh not a great picture in your
Not
head.
great.
You know who that it kind of reminds me of a little bit? Do you
Hmm.
remember Sabrina, the new Sabrina that came out?
Yeah, but I haven't finished it. But I do remember a goat demonic figure.
Like a demonic goat figure. Yeah.
Yeah,
Kind of
like it
reminds me
does.
of that a little bit. Yeah, so if you want to see like a no, that version's still pretty scary. Okay, just don't look anything up. It'll be fine. So
But why are you here if you don't want to be scared a little bit? Just look it up. You'll be fine.
that's true. That's a good point. Don't be a baby and look it up. So he has horns and a goat-like beard. So, of course, he has a beard because what could be worse than a demon with a beard? And then he also has claws and generally has dark hair with fangs. So, really, they're just going all out on the monster lore here, I feel like. They're just like every monster trope they have is in Krampus.
Mhm.
And then one of the more disturbing things is that he has a really long tongue. Did you did you see that on the
I
pictures?
I didn't see the tongue.
Okay. I
So
encourage you to look up some more pictures. I don't know why he has to have a long tongue, but it makes it worse. Because definitely the tongue makes it
hmm
worse. What
hmm hmm It's long. You're not kidding. Long tongue.
do you feel like it makes it better or worse, the tongue?
I think if it was forked, it would make it better for me. The fact that it's not forked is almost weirder, and I don't love it. So, like a snake tongue, but it's
Mm-hmm.
just the tongue, it's not forked.
Mm-hmm.
It's upsetting.
Yeah, it's like a regular person tongue, but just 10 times as long. Maybe even 50 times as long, depending on the picture you're looking at. It's very long and very disturbing because why does he need such a long tongue? We don't know. We don't know. Uh, he also sometimes has cloven hooves and carries around with him a large sack, which I'm sure you'll talk a little bit about why he
Hmm.
needs the sack,
Yeah.
and also has rusty chains and belts with him generally, which is, yeah. So I just want you to like take a second, people, and just imagine this half goat, half human figure with the really long tongue and rusty chains and belts. So 0 out of 10, how freaked out were the images that you saw of Krampus?
Um, so I guess I knew kind of what to expect. I mean, I didn't, it wasn't, it's not something, it's not like looking at pictures of Santa Claus. It's not, he's not harmless, and you can tell he's not harmless. I would say on a meter, 10 being what? Samara from the Ring is probably a 10 from me. I've never
Okay.
gotten over that. And zero, let's put Santa Claus is not at zero, so we're not
Or a
putting him at
puppy.
zero.
Maybe a
A puppy.
puppy.
A puppy is zero. Let's put Krampus. Let's put Krampus at a seven, an eight.
Okay. I was
Let's
gonna give
put
him an
him.
8 too. Yeah.
Yeah.
He is quite disturbing. There was a moment when I was looking at pictures where I thought, should we be doing this YouTube channel?
The threshold.
That was my litmus test that I was a little disturbed by Krampus.
Should we talk about the history and the lore?
I would love to hear more about that.
All right. So while we know St. Nicholas rewards good children with gifts and sweet, Krampus deals with the naughty ones. Enter the sack. Instead of lumps of coal for punishment, children may be hit with birch sticks, which he often carries. I think you mentioned that. You mentioned the chains too, and that I wanted to talk to you about this because that upsets me even more. I did the chains I assumed were for like, I'm coming, you can hear me kind of like a
Hmm.
warning, but maybe he's hitting children with those too. I don't really know. It's not good, whatever it is. Um, they can be dragged off in a sack or even spirited away to his lair, never to be seen again. Um,
Where is his lair? What is his lair like? We're not
it
supposed to
looks
know what his lair is.
frosty and creepy. It's cold. It's like if hell was frozen, it looks like, you know? When hell freezes over, Krampus is in charge. Probably no one's ever made it back from that, too.
Probably not. Yeah.
So, surprise, surprise, we've kind of talked about this, I guess, in trick-or-treating, but Krampus didn't emerge from Christian tradition. His roots go much deeper, and they're tied to pre-Christian pagan rituals, in alpine regions specifically. Scholars believe that he is connected to ancient winter celebrations, solstice, what have you. And these traditions are often they often include darker elements to scare off the evil spirits during the harshest
Mm.
part of the year. And Krampus likely started as one of those beings. And then with the spread of Christianity, like Christianity does, the church sought to integrate these pagan customs rather than erase them, just like trick-or-treating. And Krampus, once a standalone figure, was somehow folded in with Saint Nicholas. So together they're kind of like two sides of the same coin, with Saint Nicholas being the benevolent giver and Krampus being the punisher. Um, and so on Krampusnacht, so I'm not German, and my German, I know French, I know Portuguese, don't know German, so forgive me. On Krampusnacht, communities celebrate with parades and festivals where men don elaborate Krampus costumes. Emma is a huge fan of this and she wants to go, and maybe we will go together. Um,
I am
this
intrigued.
tradition this tradition continues today. So there's sometimes Krampuses stalking the streets, clanging their chains and scaring onlookers, I guess, at these festivals. I didn't look one up, but I should have, and maybe you'll put an image there because it sounds like fun. Um, his popularity has kind of waxed and waned over the years, and in the early 20th century, there were attempts to suppress him, with some of the religious and political groups viewing him as a dangerous relic of paganism, which is so funny to me always when they try and demonize paganism because, I mean, it's what we do, right? We're like, ooh, witches, but really, paganism at its core is beautiful and it's about nature. So it's
Hmm.
just really funny to me that somehow we're like, these guys, they gotta go, rather than some of the other religions talking about. Um, and like many folklore heroes, Krampus has proven resilient and triumphant, and by the late 20th century, he experienced a revival, and in recent decades, he's found a global audience to celebrate his dark charm and the way he balances the holiday season sweetness with a healthy dose of fright, I
Healthy
would
dose
say.
with a healthy dose of terrifying children
Yes,
and potentially dragging them to hell. Maybe. Maybe not.
maybe,
Not
maybe.
sure.
They might
Yeah.
go to hell.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so he like like so many, I feel like villainous folklore heroes. I mean, we definitely should do more folklore stuff. We both talk about this a lot, but it seems to have stemmed from paganism.
Hmm.
And I just always think that's really interesting that the church was like, nope, we're not doing that. No nature here. So,
No nature
and
here.
they took like the darkest elements too of like some, it's
Hmm.
like Krampus is a dark figure, sure.
Hmm.
But there's really beautiful elements of paganism that they're like, yeah, let's just get rid of those. We don't need that. Really interesting.
Yeah. It's very fascinating. That's very interesting. It's interesting that they're like, we hate the earth then, and they still hate the earth and are trying to destroy it. So like has much changed
No.
potentially. Or
And
maybe
I guess framing it that way with like they hate the earth. They also, I mean, religion is kind of a vehicle sometimes to control people. And that's what Krampus is doing by terrifying people rather than being rewarded, which we know from like psychology readings that that's
hmm
a really good way to get people to do what you want versus punishing them. We've really
hmm
laid on Krampus and yeah. But I guess he
Yeah.
doesn't really tie in so much with modern day Christmas celebrations. So maybe it's okay that maybe I'm being
Yeah.
too harsh on what the church did to Krampus, maybe. I don't know.
Free Krampus. I'm
Free
just saying.
Krampus.
Like if they can
Okay.
make shirts with other people's face on them that say free them, why
Oh,
not
free
Krampus?
Krampus. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, like let's free Krampus. Let's
Let him out.
unchain Krampus.
Mm.
Yeah, I did, you know this. I did write a paper in college about how religion is basically a form of social control where we like there's a lot of things we can see and tell people not to do, but when certain things we can't see and we're not going to make illegal like cheating on your spouse. But if you create this all-powerful being that is constantly watching you and will send you to eternal hell if you do something bad, like what better way to control people, right? Like, is there anything
Yeah.
better to control someone than saying there is this omnipotent being that can always see you, and if you do these things, you're going to hell? It's actually kind of ingenious.
It is. It totally, and it's been around forever.
Yeah,
It's ingenious.
yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe Krampus is just the like pagan atheistic version of that, right? Like it's the same
Yeah.
idea. And so, yeah, like if you're okay with the concept of hell, why not Krampus?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Choose
So
Krampus.
choose Krampus. So I don't think there's a ton of superpowers that Krampus has, but he does have a few things that like he can do, which makes kind of insinuates his abilities per se that this half goat, half human, cloven hooved, long tongued individual can do. So
Let's hear them.
one thing he does is punish children, right, who misbehave. And uh, this was really great. I think this was one of the moments where I was like, do I want to talk about Krampus? Sometimes he is aided by demon-like masked creatures he refers to as his helpers. So Santa has his helpers that help him make toys, and Krampus has his helpers that are demon-like creatures that drag children to his lair.
Torture
So
kids. Yeah, no big
yeah,
deal.
torture
Okay.
kids, which
Okay.
seems bad.
Mm.
So he may or may not have the ability to drag families to the underworld or people to the underworld. So I don't think it says hell specifically because hell is maybe like a Christian term. So it's more
Yeah.
of like the underworld as a whole that he can drag people to, which insinuates that he is perhaps very strong and very agile and fast. So kind of like a human plus.
Do you know this? Do you know if he runs like we run or he runs like a goat?
That's a really interesting question.
Because I'm sure he does run. You're probably right. He's probably very fast. And that's scary to think about him running like us or like a goat.
Yeah, a goat. I don't know if goats are faster, but you imagine 4 feet is going to be faster, right? So like
Right. Like, I guess
imagine
I'm imagining
him.
like a werewolf kind of running more than like a goat, like a
Yeah.
horrible hybrid.
Okay, I have this image in my head of him running and his tongue like lashing out in front of him, like pulling him closer or pushing things out of the way. I'm not really
Emma
sure.
cannot get over the tongue.
I
She just
can't.
can't.
It's so disturbing. It's far more disturbing than his cloven hooves or like horns or any of that. Yeah, so very fast, very agile. His goal is basically to punish little kids that misbehave, right? And he has to be obviously very strong because he has to like hit children with these birch leaves, which seems also bad, and like child abuse, which
Yes.
We're not into that. Uh, so
No, and that feels important to mention because we have talked a lot about torturing children. We're not into it. We're not big on that.
yeah, we don't love this version of Krampus,
No.
perhaps. We're also not big into like dragging people to the underworld. Generally, if we could not do that, that would be ideal.
Hmm.
So, he also slakes his thirst by feeding upon the blood of the worst children.
Oh, okay.
Hmm. Yeah,
Makes sense.
so these things are concerning about
Yeah.
Krampus. Like maybe we don't need a free Krampus. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I think especially my guess is these descriptions are pretty true to the original pagan
Hmm.
descriptions. And so maybe this isn't a church problem at all. And it's just scary.
Okay, so I'm curious though, right? Because there's this common rhetoric that talks about like how we're kind of getting soft as a people, right? Like we're when it's cold outside, we don't want to go outside. We want to work less. We want like we're just kind of getting softer as a people, like squishier, which I think there is some truth to that, right? I don't think it's always true, but I think there could be some truth that we're like we have more comforts now than we used to have,
Yes.
right? When we were like cavemen and having to kill things with bows and arrows. So I'm curious what you think about like, should we bring back using Krampus as a way to make kids behave? Do we think that's a good
No!
idea or a bad idea?
Straight face. You know this is terrible. What is wrong with you? She's kidding. She's kidding.
Okay, so we generally think Krampus is kind of a bad idea. Still, even
Yeah,
still.
yes. I mean,
Okay.
especially now that you've told me, he's hitting the kids with the sticks, which isn't great. It's really not, but it's it's better than draining the blood from them, which how does he do that? Is the tongue turn into some kind of drill? Is it like drilling in? I just don't know, which I don't love. Um, so I'm thinking those shirts need to say cancel Krampus instead of free Krampus. I think we're canceling him actually.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah, I
I
think
was
we
kind of
started out
sympathetic, like, oh, the church did this. I don't think the church did do this actually.
yeah, so we started out pretty pro Krampus, but like any good host, we have an open mind, and the more that we've learned, I think we're pretty anti-Krampus.
Yeah. I,
Yeah.
yeah, that's really interesting. I think, yeah, I didn't go into this thinking that would be where we headed with this, but
Hmm.
I'm happy with the decision after I've learned what he does.
Yeah, he's not like a great half man, half goat.
No.
So I'm cool with canceling Krampus. Yeah, no on
Canceled.
Krampus.
Lock him up, chain him up in his lair, his
Lock
frosty
up
lair.
Krampus.
Really quick, before we go, I would like to touch on Frau Perchta. Have you heard of Frau Perchta?
I have not.
Okay, so sometimes she's associated with Krampus as they're both alpine, wintry folklore figures. She goes back to pre-Christian times also. She was probably a goddess of winter, nature, or fate. But over the years, she's become this really fearsome figure, which maybe the Christians did that. I don't know. But during the 12 days of Christmas, that's when she visits. And rather than punishing children, Frau Percha punishes anyone who neglects their household work or domestic work, specifically like spinning, like looming, like making clothes. Um, and she was just obsessed with spinning, weaving, and making fabric. And I guess it makes sense when you think about how cold it was there and like there was this demand for more and more clothing for like the people. But she wasn't all about punishment, which I think is interesting. If you were really diligent and completed your spinning, you might be rewarded with small gifts like coins and food. But her punishments, if we thought Krampus's punishments were bad, this is what I got on Perchta. Are you ready?
Mhm.
sometimes literally opening the bellies of offenders, stuffing them with straw or rocks, and then sewing them back up. This earned her the nickname the belly slitter.
Oh
So
my God. Is she worse than Krampus?
she might be. She's really scary. Uh, so while like Krampus is kind of chaotic, though, she represents a more structured reinforcement, I guess, of societal expectations, particularly those of women, which I don't love because,
Mhm.
like, where are the checks and balances for men in this whole thing? Because I couldn't find
Mhm.
one. I found Perchta for the women and I found Krampus for the children. Men just, I guess, get to do whatever they want. Um,
That seems to
but
track.
but yeah, I just thought it was really interesting that got to do your domestic chores or like and now the two are I don't think the two are like inherently like linked together, but I
Mhm.
found this picture of who's supposed to be Perchta, I'll send you this image,
Mhm.
and Krampus like together in like kind of
Mhm.
like a you know how sometimes the man is like standing over the chair and like putting his arm on it and the woman's sitting there. It's kind of it looks kind of like that from what I remember.
Okay. Also, those two things do not seem equal. Like, it's not like you murder someone and you get a belly full of rocks. It's like you don't finish mopping and you get a belly full of rocks. Really? Wow.
Be a good woman. It's just crazy. It's crazy. It says that she could punish anyone, but all of these chores are like very specific to domestic work, like in ancient alpine history. So it's just kind of like, anyone,
She could
sure.
punish anyone, but only women have bellyfuls of rocks.
Yes. Yeah, only the women.
Love that. Cool, cool,
Yeah.
cool.
So just something else to like she's supposed to just look kind of like an old lady, like an old witch. So she's
Mhm.
not quite she doesn't have the tongue thing going on, but I don't think she's any better than Krampus and she might be worse. I don't know.
So if you're a man looking to get your wife to, or a wife looking to get your other wife to do their domestic chores and get your kids to
Booming.
behave, all you have to do is look toward alpine folklore, and they have your answers.
You're welcome. We do not endorse this. We are kidding.
Yeah. Well, I would love to hear from folks. Are you pro Krampus or anti Krampus? Did this change your mind? Also, who's worse? Like belly full of rocks lady or long tongue guy? I want to know.
I want to know too. Or if you have any other like wintry folklore legends that you think are spooky. A lot of them are when you really think about it. So,
Or even if you just kind of think about it.
yeah, even
Sometimes you
if you
don't even have to
just
really think about it.
touch on it.
And if you've made it this far, you should totally subscribe because we are super fun and it's totally free. And we won't even make Krampus like stalk you or drag you to any sort of underworld. So you should jump on board. Until next time, stay spooky, friends.